CPR.
Just waiting on Heather. All right.
Okay. The applicant appearing before the board today is Wake Preparatory Academy. This clarification interview will be conducted by the Performance Committee and Co-Chair Linda Lynn Cakadelis. The proposed county is Wake. The proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 10, 1,605 students. Year 2, K through 11, 1,855 students. Year 3, K through 12, 2,105 students. Year 4, K through 12, 2,105 students. Year 5, K through 12, 2,105 students. We did not have an LEA impact statement for this application. We did complete a due diligence for this application. Pass-fail ratings are as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, 4 pass, 1 fail. Education plans, 4 pass, 1 fail. Governance and capacity, 4 pass, 1 fail. Operations, all pass. Finance, 4 pass, 1 fail. This applicant did not submit a special request. This is a repeat applicant. They submitted an application last year but withdrew prior to clarification. There are some similarities between this application and last, but there are notable differences as well. For example, last year the applicant partnered with a different management company, and they have also changed the name of the school. This applicant did receive assistance from Charter One, and they do intend to partner with that management organization, and there were no direct fees provided. This application was deemed complete. The applicant now has 5 minutes to deliver a statement.
Introduce the board. First of all, good evening or good afternoon. So happy to see all of you. Hello, hello, hello. I feel like this is a reunion, and it is. Thank you for the privilege of your time. I am Hilda Parlay, founder and president of the board of Wake Preparatory Academy. I am retired and a still wired educator, mainly middle school mathematics and experience and curriculum specialist. I am also founder and president of the board of Wake Forest Charter Academy, who recently received approval for a 10-year renewal. And my next guest is, or member of the board, James, come up.
I'm James Averett, the treasurer for the board. I have graduated from college here in North Carolina at Mars Hill with bachelor's in religion and minors in Greek and math. Then I went to seminary, got a master's in education, and then worked for nonprofit churches or churches for 25 plus approximately years, and then started a business in communications industry as a franchise, ran it for 7 years, sold it to a nationally traded company as a part of a major buyout for that franchise system. Worked for them for a few months and decided that was not for me, and then started another company up here in North Carolina, and we processed payroll for other companies from 1998 to 2012. Sold that to someone and retired, and am enjoying some other projects such as this now.
Thank you. Good morning, board. I'm Valeska Lapani Garrett. I'm the vice president of the board, and my area is exceptional children. I have a master's degree from Bowling Green State University in the education of students with learning disabilities and or behavioral disorders, which is what they call it in Ohio. I also have a cognate as a reading specialist. And my experience has been in a blend of education, administration, and consultation. I've worked with children, with students from every grade level, from kindergarten through graduate school. And my first love, however, is working with elementary EC students. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Whoops. That needs to come up a little bit. I'm a little taller than Val is. This thing work? My name is Mike Feetham. I am the secretary of the board of directors for Wake Preparatory Academy. My background, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering from the University of Michigan. I was in the utility business most of my career, and in that career I was primarily working on project management or management. My last job, I retired as Director of Engineering and Technical Field Services for North Carolina Electric Membership Corporation. We did a $400 million project that I was the project engineer for power plants just before I retired. I'd like to mention too that I also right now for the last couple of years have been coaching a robotics team with Thales Academy, and I'm thoroughly enjoying that. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Seaman. I have 27 years of educational experience from middle school to college. Also 25 years of parish administration experience, 16 years consulting congregations, particularly in the fields of governance and leadership, and 5 years experience in information technology, particularly in software development. Obviously, I'm not that old, so some of that work has been done concurrently. And I thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you introducing all the board members and having them here.
And may I also say we have our EMO
Yes.
backing us up today.
Okay.
One those gentlemen and the lady.
Great, great, great. The performance committee for you sitting there consists of Mr. Friend, Ms. Reeves, Ms. Gibbs, and Ms. Sutton, and myself. And so we'll be doing the clarification interview today. All right. I'm just going to open it up to our committee. Are there any pertinent questions, remembering that this is clarification to have you come back for a full interview if the board deems necessary? So,
I have a question regarding the relationship with the EMO Charter 1.
Yes.
Do they operate, are they serving as the EMO for any other schools in North Carolina currently?
No, this would be their first. They have several in Arizona, Gilbert, Arizona area, Las Vegas, and also in Texas. But this would be their first in North Carolina. However, they are building schools in North Carolina, charter schools.
I guess the reason for my question is I went go to the Charter 1 website. They list Ascend Leadership Academy on their website. And so I was just wondering what the relationship is with Ascend. Because I looked at Ascend's charter, and they don't list an EMO, but
Right.
Charter 1 website, they're listed as one of the schools that they spotlight as being one of their schools.
Mitch, would you like to? No, not Mitch. Okay, come on.
My name's Mitch, by the way. The only relationship with Ascend is they purchased our Raise leadership curriculum from us and currently implement that. And so that is the extent of the relationship with Ascend. That is it.
Are any of the board members for Charter 1 residents living here in North Carolina? Or are they all based in Arizona?
Two are. One has settled in already, Mitch, and then Michael Way will be closing on his home Thursday. And Jen, our curriculum specialist, is from Durham.
anything else? I had a question about the aggressiveness of doing a K-10 with 1,600 students. Help me understand the thought behind that.
Well, first of all, it goes back to when Wake Forest Charter Academy opened, and we were barely into our first year when parents who love the culture of Wake Forest Charter were begging and pleading, when are you going to start a high school? When are you going to start a high school? And the population in the Wake Forest, Roseville area is growing leaps and bounds. New construction is everywhere, from townhomes to single families. And we would not target a specific area. And also, as we were starting this, we created a Facebook page, and a lot has happened since October. We had community meetings, and we have a website where there is a survey. And as part of that survey, we asked families if they would like to sign up for our list of interest groups. And they did. We have now a count of 1,323 families who have signed up for our list group. And the K-8s in the area, starting with Wake Forest Charter Academy, Envision Science Academy, Endeavor School, Roseville Charter, and even Franklin Academy that has a K-12, our wait lists are over 1,000. At our last board meeting at Wake Forest Charter Academy, our wait list was 1,283. And this is not just the charter schools. We still have access for children who are in the LEAs, Wake, Granville, Franklin, and we will target, of course, heavily Wake and Franklin counties. But our interest, our families were very concerned too about all of their kids being on the same schedule. Another thing that is happening in Wake County is that some of the schools are being capped. I know that Heritage High, for sure, and some elementary schools are being capped. So then where are these kids going to go? And then back to the K-8, the parents were concerned that, well, where will my kids go? To maintain that same culture that they had in K-8. As let's see, and we also plan to have articulation policies with those K-8s so that we can make sure that we do fill the 9-12.
Ms. Hilda,
And yes,
with that being said, why not start a high school?
well, we
Or
considered that. That's,
extend
excuse me.
your Wake Forest school into a high school program.
Well, Wake Forest Charter Academy, the EMO there is NHA, National Heritage
That is a
Academies,
HA school.
and their model is only K-8.
Correct.
I tried, I really did.
So then why not
So-
just the high school?
Well, we thought it would be more lucrative to have a K-12 so that we can, those kids can feed into the high school. But yes, I considered it. So economically feasible was to have a K-12. And plus, we want to give our kids the full high school experience. We've noticed that at Wake Forest Charter Academy, we started losing some 7th graders. And we said, why? They wanted to go to the local or traditional schools because they were interested in sports, mainly football. So if we had the K-12, it would make far more sense for us as well as the families. And the survey I mentioned, you want to give those results?
You have uploaded, I believe, the marketing survey that was conducted by Charter One. And there are 700 surveys that have been filled out. And if you look at the chart, the pie chart on that, far and away, all of the families that were surveyed, they were asked, would you rather have a K through 8 or have a 9 through 12? And it was overwhelmingly, they wanted to have a K through 12 in one campus. That really helps with families with multiple children because they're only bringing their kids to one place. It helps, like Ms. Hilda said, with scheduling because they only have to worry about one schedule that will be Wake Prep.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to follow up again regarding the relationship with Charter One, and I'm just trying to get a better, Charter One's not a EMO that I'm personally familiar with, maybe my colleagues are. When I go to the website, there's no information whatsoever about who is Charter One. There's no listing of personnel. Who are they?
Okay, I'll let
and
Charter
so
One
I
speak.
guess
We know.
Well, my question is Glenn Way the chair or president of, founder of Charter One?
Well, it's a group, as a matter of fact. Robert, would you come up?
Hi, my name's Robert Plowman. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Charter One. So Charter One is an LLC that's founded out of Arizona. There are four partners that founded Charter One, and it came through our desire to grow charter schools across the country where charter schools are wanted. So we've had great success in Arizona, and it came from a school system called American Leadership Academy, which has 10,000 students in Arizona. And we recognize that, as you know, from state to state, the requirements for how to start a charter school are different. You want local participation and leadership there, and we recognize that the way we were structured, it didn't really help us to go fulfill that mission and the needs that we saw that Hilda's talked about to meet all the families. And so we recognize that pulling that expertise out of ALA that started in 2009 and bringing that expertise in a management organization that could service boards, school boards like Hilda's here in North Carolina, that we would have an opportunity to take the things that we've learned over this 10 years of growing from 150 students in Arizona to 10,000 students in Arizona. We've been able to replicate that in Nevada as well, and now we look at the things that are going on here in the great state of North Carolina and think that there's opportunity to help Hilda and her board as well.
So there was some controversy that came out in the media last summer around Charter One and the relationship with Glen Way, and then the development of, like, serving as the development company too for the actual facilities. Is that?
So I can tell you that.
Can you help me just clarify that?
Sure, I can tell you that Charter One is in good standing with every regulatory agency with which it does business in Arizona. I can also tell you that Charter One does not do development work. So our responsibilities here, and Hilda can talk more about the relationship that she has from a developer standpoint, but Charter One is an EMO, and that's what we will, the services that we will perform here.
Is anyone who's on the board or in the organization of Charter One running a development company who you would contract that work to?
Yep. So Glen Way is a minority owner in a development company.
Would he be the proposed development company for this school?
I'll let Hilda talk about that. Yep.
Yes, so Schoolhouse Dev would be the firm that will buy the land and build the school. Charter One will be in charge of management and day-to-day operations.
But that, again, just clarifying, that company who would do the development is owned by someone who's also part owner of the EMO.
Yes, minority owner.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Ms. Parley, why don't you tell us how you came about, or how your board came about picking this particular development and management companies?
It took 2 years, let me tell you. When we had bumps along the way, but this was a different board. I've gone through 2 different boards, trying to still make my dream come true for the sake of these children, and how I found each one of them. I put an ad, an all call at my church, and I found Mr. Averett, Mr. Reverend Bill Seaman, as well as Mr. Fathom. And then my banker referred Ms. Garrett. So after we got together, we researched and researched and researched one EMO who could handle or serve or manage a K-12. Most were K-8s or either a 9-12. So we didn't give up. We kept searching and searching. And I happened to decide, well, maybe we'll just be an independent. Maybe we'll just be an independent. We're running into so many bumps along the way until I found a gentleman who is a CPA who does a lot of financing for charter schools in the Triangle area, Charter Success Partners, and this is how I found Charter One. But it took 2 years to keep digging, researching.
Any other questions from my colleagues?
Well, based on the website for the American Leadership Academy, it has 12 schools in its conglomerate, but those schools are not K-12. there's K-6 and 7-12
Right.
on. So I guess that's just,
Would this be their first K-12?
as far as I can tell.
What?
Where-
No. We visited a K-12.
Okay, so which one
Two
was
of the
K-
boards, in
which
Gilbert
one's
Everett.
K-12?
I'm sorry.
Gilbert? So they're not listed on the website as a K-12. They're listed as K-6 and 7-12. If you go to American Leadership Academy, they list all their schools.
Yes. But we did visit a K-12 with 3 buildings on one campus, K-5 building, 6-12 building, athletic, cafeteria building, and that was a full K-12.
Where did you go visit them? What school was it?
Gilbert, Arizona.
Okay. In Arizona, okay.
Oh.
What else?
2 campuses.
Yeah, I can clarify that
2
if you'd
schools
like.
on one campus.
So, yeah, so the way it is, the same way that WPA is proposed, it would be a K-12 campus.
Okay,
A building for K through K-5 and then 6-12. So with Arizona, you have 7-12. It's in a separate building, which we refer to as the 7-12, but they're all on the same campus. So we call it a K-12 campus, but on the website, we have different, because it's an elementary versus middle school and high school, so we keep them separate. Just
So
keep-
what's the largest enrollment of K-12?
in Arizona, 2,600 students.
okay, anything else from my colleagues?
In the educational plan, you guys talk about individualized ed program and emphasize that. How are you meshing that with starting with 1,600 kids and having a focus on individualized education?
Well, as you know, it's per grade, per class, and will be based on the needs of the students. So after the kids come to us, then we will decide who really needs the individualized instruction and at what point or points.
And what about the project-based learning as a means for delivering instruction to all the high school core classes?
That will follow through K-12, and let's don't. A lot of people think that there will be no instruction going on with that. So the project-based learning, they will complete projects at the end of courses and/or units. So that will follow through. So the high school is no different, or will be no different.
I think we're veering into.
I know, we're going into, we're going a little deeper. I just will let you guys know how I feel about it. I would love to hear more about it. I think it's great that we've got another EMO that's interested in coming to North Carolina. This would be the first. So that is interesting to me. But do I have a motion from the committee?
I move that we bring them back for what?
Full interview.
Full interview. Okay.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of bringing them back for a full interview? Okay. Mr. Chairman, that's been moved and unanimous.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. We're bringing it to the full board at this point. Any further discussion or any questions for Linda Lynn in the committee or comments?
I just have comment. I think I share mostly for myself. You can nod your head if you think I share this thought. I just think the numbers are really disconcerting. Maybe not disconcerting, just
Overwhelming.
they're massive for a new school, particularly in an area that has some schools already. And I still feel the need to flesh out a little bit this relationship between BMO and the school and the development, because there are some things that happen in Arizona that I think we need to be aware of. I'm sure they can explain, so.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
did I hear right that this would be the first school partnered with Charter One in North Carolina?
I believe so, yes.
Yes,
They have a contract with another school. They're
right,
providing
just for a
services.
curriculum piece.
And will Charter One also actually build the structure, the school?
They contract
School.
it out to a development
That's to
company
another company.
Right,
that does have a relationship with the MO.
no. Well, yeah. Schoolhouse staff.
And does
He's the
the
developer.
applicant also understand there's a big difference between a high school and a K-8? I mean, there's a good reason why Charter Schools USA and NHA won't go beyond K-8. High school's a totally different animal.
Did anybody actually move in second? I think,
Yeah,
I think
Linda
you
Lynn
made the
Committee.
motion.
I made the motion.
Committee's approved it.
I'll second it if it hadn't been seconded.
No, we haven't made a motion from the board.
All right, I'll move to, you go ahead. You move to
Well,
bring him forward.
I move we bring him forward for an interview.
Right. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded.
Well, I'd already done that, but
No,
okay.
you
All
did
right.
it.
No, you did it
Let's,
first.
let's just,
No,
we
you
just
did it
need
for
to
the
interview
committee.
them.
Do it right.
We're getting
No,
into
no,
interview
you did it for the
questions.
committee, now I did it for the full
I'm gonna
board.
call the question, all in
Excuse me, I
favor?
forget.
All right, motion carries, we'll see you in a month or so, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Hilda.
Be ready.
No, no one was opposed, it was
I
unanimous.
voted.
Did the whole, I'm sorry.
Yeah, everybody. Is
thought they
Heather
were
on the
still in the
she voted
subcommittee.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Next one,
Jordan Lake Academy.
it's another big story.
Let's try something new, Alan. Let's try it.
First year.
At least for us.
Yeah.
The applicant appearing before the board today is Jordan Lake Academy. This clarification interview will be led by Stephen Walker and the Policy Committee. They're proposing to locate in Wake County. Their proposed grade levels and projected student enrollment are as follows. Year 1, K through 8, 702 students. Year 2, K through 9, 792 students. Year 3, K through 10, 882 students. Year 4, K through 11, 972 students. Year 5, K through 12, 1,062 students. We did not have an LEA impact or due diligence completed for this application. Pass, fail ratings are as follows. Mission, purposes, and goals, 1 pass, 4 fail. Education plan, 2 pass, 3 fail. Governance and capacity, 3 pass, 2 fail. Operations, 4 pass, 1 fail. Finance, 1 pass, 4 fail. This applicant did not submit a special request. They are a repeat applicant. They previously applied as Liberty Leadership Academy. They received a clarification interview last year, but they were not moved forward to a full interview. They did not receive third-party assistance, and the application was deemed complete. You have 5 minutes to deliver a statement.
Hi, I'm a member of the board. My name's Maylani Hawk. I have a master's degree in education curriculum. I have been mostly on the board over real estate. That's my career background, real estate, but also in interacting with the community and getting feedback and posting to see the interest level, and that's been my role so far.
My name is Stuart Inke. I'm the proposed lead administrator for the charter. Want to take just a few minutes. A lot of our board is not present. A lot of our board is interrelated in a company, and this is their vacation week that they won, and so a good portion of our board is not present. We apologize for that.
Where did they get to go?
Hawaii. So I don't want you to feel hurt that they chose Hawaii, but
I would have chosen Hawaii. Is amazing.
yeah. I haven't been, but someday, right? I did want to address a few things in these first few moments. There were some questions around our relationship with Charter One, and I can see that it's very pertinent today. we are not related to Charter One in any way. Another member of the board and myself did previously work for members of Charter One. If this body is ever interested in more information there, I'd be more than willing to discuss it. I think there's a lot of information I could give that would be very important for some of the considerations that you need to make. That being said, there were several concerns brought up. The chief areas of concern seem to be the numbers that we were proposing, and also the, I guess the rationale, right? Because we talked about a smaller school versus a larger school. So let me address that briefly. The way we arrived at the 702 number, and I submitted a statement. I understand you guys are busy, so I won't assume that you've read it. Basically, the way a best practice we pulled from other charter CMEs and EMOs is you want 90% of your enrollment to come from within 5 miles of your school site. There's 26,000 students in the K-5 range within 5 miles of our proposed site. So we want 90% of our kids to come from there. You want to make sure that number is below 5% of the available population. So 700 students, that's considering if all of our students came from that 26,000, it's about 2% of the population. So really we would say that 1,400 kids is probably realistic. Now that doesn't mean that it's ideal, right? And ideal is a judgment call. A school can be too small. When a school is too small, you don't have opportunities for leadership. You don't have opportunities for sports and other things. You don't have all the clubs and diversity and variety that you want. A school can also be too large, right? Where only the best kids get to play, only the smartest kids are competing for scholarships, et cetera. You want kind of what we call the Goldilocks zone, right? And we call this the genius of small. This is where you're large enough to offer a variety of experiences for the students, but you're small enough to ensure that there are still meaningful relationships and that everyone has an opportunity to engage in those things. Something that's always funny to me is charters will talk about or some schools will talk about all the programs they have, and if you go and audit those programs, what you find are the same kids who are playing football are also the kids who are wrestling, are also the kids that are playing track in the spring. So you're not really serving your whole population, you're serving 50 kids really well, right? I know there's some real questions around our application, and so we are very interested in getting our application right. And so we appreciate the time that you're taking with us today to discuss it, and we are looking forward to your feedback.
Thank you. All right, let's start talking about the application a little bit, and you can just sit down for a little while.
Sure.
And we're going to discuss it, and then if we have any questions that are clarifying questions, where it is, unless I know the answer to this, I can't decide if it wants to go forward because I don't understand it, then we'll ask those questions. So anybody have any thoughts on mission, purposes, and goals?
Hi, Chair Walker. This is Heather Van Cannon, if I may.
Yes, please.
Some of the comments that I have made just revolve around clarity of the purpose of the school. I'm just curious. We got some information in the background about the median income and kind of where it's going to be located and all the waiting lists from other schools. But I'm still searching for what the mission and vision really is for this school. So that's my first clarifying question for this app.
Yeah, can you just clarify for us then real quick what really is the mission?
Absolutely. So we're trying to build a community. I mean, a school should be part of a community. If you pull the numbers for the schools in Cary, there's 4 schools with more than 500 students. There's 6 schools with 700 plus students. There are 7 schools with 800 plus K-5 students. And my point is that when your student is one of 800, it's hard to feel like you're part of a community, right? Schubiner talks about these little platoons of society, and they tend to be under 300 to 400 people. So our proposed elementary school, right, we're K-8, but our K-5 portion is 430 students. That would make us the second smallest elementary school in the Cary area, right? So what we're aiming for is a community. Now, what do you want as part of your community? And that's where we get into the demographics of, we want a diverse community. We want lots of voices to be heard. And we want to make sure we can serve the community that is present. We don't want to create our own community. We want to represent the communities there and make sure that we're serving it, right? It used to be you knew people at your school and you knew people from school. I'm not sure that's true anymore, right? So like if you follow out our enrollment projections, we're talking about a high school with 360 kids, right? You would actually know your graduating class. You would have meaningful relationships with them. That's just not present right now in the area. I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing. What I'm saying is we think it would be worthwhile to provide an option for parents where their students would have meaningful relationships with their peers, their teachers. Imagine having the same principal, and we're not talking about a K through 5 campus, a 6 through 12 campus. We're talking about a K through 12 campus eventually. Imagine your student having the same principal for 13 years. That's going to be a meaningful relationship. That's what I apologize for the lack of clarity, but that is what we're going for, right?
Thank you. Anything else on mission, purposes, and goals?
Just a follow-up, please.
Go ahead.
So he mentioned about the demographics, and without jumping ahead, I'm not sure that there is a weighted lottery. I don't think there is. Is that correct? To the board? Or to the committee, sorry.
Yeah, and that's kind of the answer is yes. If I could take a minute, what we were hoping to do is do first come, first serve. And the purpose there wasn't to try to game the system at all, but something we talked about with parents who are on waiting lists right now is they didn't always feel like they had confidence about when they would be in or out, and they felt like they were on a wait list for a long time, and they weren't sure, next year they might be in a lottery, might not be, so they would sign up for every charter school they could, and they're on multiple wait lists. And so our goal was to say, if it's possible, and this is where we would take a lot of feedback, if it's possible, we would do first come, first serve. That way you know you're in when you're in, and then the list would just be first come, first serve. So if you were the first to sign up after the wait list started, you would be the first in when space became available. If that is not appropriate,
I think you can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
then we would institute a lottery.
Okay.
Now, we did talk about this with people at some of the training sessions. They thought that it would be okay if we very clearly stated it that way. But like I said, so I don't want you to think we just ignored council. We took council. But if that is the case, we will obviously institute a lottery.
Yeah, I think the law is pretty clear that if you have more applications than seats, you have to do a lottery. So.
Fair enough. We will institute one.
Yep. Otherwise, people will be slashing tires to make sure people didn't get their application. But yeah, okay. So
Excuse me, was Heather asking about a weighted lottery, or?
She was. They're not going to have. Well, I don't think they were planning for a lottery. Period. At first. So yeah, no weighted lottery. Let's move on into. I want to make sure we get to this the education plan. Any thoughts on that from anybody?
My thoughts really kind of go along with what Heather was saying, that it just seems like a mission and everything, and the ed plan is more around behaviors and not necessarily academics. So that would be just one of my concerns.
Okay. Anything on governance and capacity? I was glad that, one of the things that I pointed out is there didn't seem to be a whole lot of education experience on the board, but you explained that you did have a master's in curriculum, I think it is.
Yeah.
So there's at least, that's there. I guess more of my issue came into finance, which kind of goes into your operations and everything. I really feel like y'all got to rework the budget, because it looks really good if you were looking at purely from a financial perspective to say we're going to have a $1.1 million surplus at the end of year one. But that's a lot of money left on the table that can be used to help these children get a better education. And so, I could see, when you're looking at in your first year, most schools are looking at, if they get a $100,000 surplus in their first year, they're feeling really good, because the first year is very expensive to get everything. You've got a lot of new costs in your first year that you won't have in your second and third and fourth years. But to see that $1.1 million, and I really don't have any clarification. That's more just me saying, you know, when you've got that much, you know, I think there's just a lot of money left on the table that can be used to, you know, either, gosh, I mean, I'm sure a lot of the people here would like to have $1 million sitting around that they could use for teacher bonuses to try to lure higher performing teachers in or whatever, you know. You know, if you come in, we'll give you a $10,000 bonus this year if you'll come in to teach at our school. I mean, I'm sure I'd love that because you can do a lot of $10,000 bonuses with $1 million. But, you know, so that's kind of my thought on it is I think the budget really does kind of need reworked to see, because I'm sure there's some stuff that's too low in there, and then just having that much of a surplus. I know it seems weird for me to complain about a surplus, but I think that surplus was a little too high.
So if I could offer.
Vice Chair Walker?
Yes, Heather.
One of the pieces that we brought up budget is the health insurance is provided at $700 for the year. And to your point about using some of that surplus, I think it's going to be a struggle given the area that they're in with getting talent in terms of teachers. Even though their starting pay may be higher, we know that health care and health insurance costs skyrocket, it seems like every year. $700 is just a drop in the bucket, maybe like 1 or 2 months. And so I'm curious about whether they have a plan to supplement that somehow. I don't see it in the budget, but I think that's a really important piece that will be hard to compete with your traditional schools and even some other charter schools.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too. I have, you know, my family's health care plan is $680 a month. So, thank you. That's the state health plan. But let me ask. You can go ahead and maybe clarify why did you desire to have that large of a surplus, and where'd you come up with these health insurance numbers?
Yes,
and you'll have to come up to the the main microphone.
We were aiming for $700 a month, so that was a error. The goal was to provide $700 in health insurance to our full-time employees each month.
That takes up a lot of that surplus.
It takes up a lot of that surplus. Now, it does. Part of what we were looking at with the $1 million surplus, part of this is that a lot of our upfront costs, we hope that with the person we're partnering to build a school, a lot of the upfront costs will be covered by them and rolled into our lease payments each month, and that's an agreement that we've discussed. So initial purchases of tables, computers, things like that. I think there was a note about computers as well. A lot of that we were hoping would be part of our building costs and lease, right? Now the other $1 million, now that still leaves $1 million. We just figured out where it went, right? A lot of it's going to healthcare. But we also know that there's just things that we don't know. So we don't want you to think that we were confident we were going to end the first year with $1 million. What we didn't want to do was over allocate to an area that we'd be held to, where we felt like we suddenly had to spend $100,000 in transportation when we needed it elsewhere. And so we were viewing that $1 million of surplus as kind of as we discover needs, right? We don't know what we don't know yet in all of these areas. This is the pool that we're pulling from. Now I've looked at charters, like a Arapahoe charter school normally ends with between $500,000 and $800,000 of surplus, right? They are also a much more experienced, established charter school, right? So we would hope to be in a surplus, but we certainly didn't think that $1 million was going to be it.
Yeah, if you had a $1 million surplus in year 5, I wouldn't have batted an eye. It was having that in year 1 just raised some alarm bells there.
Sure.
Anything else on this application? I know we're pushing into it a little bit. We're got about 10 minutes left.
On their budget.
I mean, I like the idea. I think y'all both seem very knowledgeable. I don't know about the rest of the board, you know, because they're not here, and that's not a ding on the rest of the board. I understand that. They didn't have to be here, and it doesn't play anything into it. I feel like with some of the clarification that's been asked, that this could use another year to kind of get ready. And I know I know y'all heard that last year. This was better than was it Liberty Leadership
That's
Academy
correct.
last year?
Yep.
Yeah, I think this application was better, but I just don't think it's quite there yet.
Stephen, I know I'm not on the committee, but under Liberty Leadership, they were proposing to locate in Chatham County. So why the shift?
Would you like for us to respond to that?
Sure, go ahead.
Sure.
So in looking at actually narrowing down a location, and we have a very interested party that it is very close to the border of Chatham County, and so we still have to be honest, I hope it's okay, that we still have a lot of interest from the Chatham County students. The location is right along the 751 and 64, so it's right there on the border. However, we found a plot that we love and fell in love with that was right over the boundary, and most of the board actually resides in Cary and was planning to travel to Chatham, but we found a location that we love that's right there on the border.
So aspirationally, we were in Chatham, but as we found a specific site, we moved quick.
Anything else from the members of the committee? Okay, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we do not move forward to Jordan Lake to full interview.
Okay, we have a motion to not move forward for a full interview. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a second by Heather. Any discussion from the committee? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so do we note our one opposition for our CSAB contrarian? I will make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we do not move Jordan Lake Academy forward for a full interview on behalf of the policy committee.
All right. It's been moved. Any second? Can someone second that?
I'll second.
All right, Cheryl seconds. So any discussion or questions about this application?
Does anybody know if this is anywhere near the area that Charter Schools USA was trying to put in a school and got slammed on the zoning?
I think it's pretty close to that area.
It's about 6 miles south.
So 6 miles south of the Cary area?
So it's on the border of Cary and Apex, but the other one that got shut down is further up Green Level, about 5.5 to 6 miles.
And it is in Chatham County. It was in Chatham.
It was in Chatham.
I asked this guy about ALS. I'm not asking him about that. You know, he said,
What's the problem?
whatever.
Other than
You know
other
how he said if you would like to talk to us, I'm going to talk to him. Yeah, true. All right, any further discussion? Okay, it's been properly moved and second. All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Okay, please note the opposition. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hope to see y'all back next year.
Thanks.
It's on the cusp. It's almost
We hope.
there.
And again, I don't know
Please tell
when
me.
or where it's appropriate, but if this body is interested in additional information on the previous discussed EMO, I'd be very willing to talk to whoever it's appropriate to talk to about that.
You could schedule a reach out to Dr. Allen or Mr. Machado.
Absolutely.
All right, so Kingdom Performing Arts Academy has withdrawn. Great. So
That fast? When did that happen?
Oh my God, wait a minute, did I say that this morning?
Literally over lunch.
It was like you were a prophet. You
Why,
said
what did
that
you
they-
Oh my
say?
gosh.
She said they withdrew, didn't
They
they?
withdrew.
She
said
it.
I gotta go buy a lottery ticket.
That's great. I'm not, so we have our next, I was just looking at the agenda, we have 40 minutes until Paul R. Brown. They're clearly not here yet. There's no, it doesn't look like there's anything on the agenda that we can cover without.
Anything on
Give you a quick update on the CSP grant if you'd like.
Yes. Let's hear it.
We wanna hear from Jay. It's too quiet.
I like to go at the end of Tuesday, so I have to do it in 5 minutes. But, okay, so update on the CSP, a reminder of where we are on the timeline. Letters of intent were due on February 15th. We received 26 letters of intent from around the state, and 23 of those schools, excuse me, were eligible. You all received the eligibility report on February 25th, and that's also on eBoard if you haven't had a chance to look at that. So all eligible applicants have been invited to Epicenter to apply. The application deadline is March 31st, and since the application launched through March 31st, we've been doing technical assistance sessions. We've done 6 in-person trainings around the state, and our 7th and final is on Wednesday. We've posted a recorded training webinar. We've done a live webinar. We have one more live webinar coming up on the 20th. So after the 31st, our access team and a team of external evaluators will review all the applications with hopes to bring those recommendations to you at your May meeting. So in terms of the eligibility report, like I mentioned, we had 26 letters of intent, 23 schools were eligible. There are 7 eligible schools for the planning and implementation subgrant for a possible 3 allocated subgrants, 14 eligible applicants for implementation only for a possible 2 subgrants. We had 5 letters of intent for the expansion subgrant, 2 of which were eligible for a possible, it was allocated for 3, so we will give out at most 2 expansion subgrants this year, and 0 letters of intent for replication. So we will work to reallocate those subgrants to future years. We cannot reallocate them to different categories. We could just move them forward and give out more in future subgrant cycles.
And that's a replication is what we have to move forward?
Both replications and one of the expansions, we allocated 3 and we only have 2 eligible subgrants. So you have the list of all the schools in the eligibility report as well as every letter that was sent out, so you know the non-eligible schools, the reasons for their eligibility status.
So Jay, with that, I noticed some of the ones that were eligible haven't been approved yet.
Correct.
So that's
It is
obviously.
contingent on being approved by the state board, yes, but they could go through this process concurrently.
And we have 2 that are eligible in expansion. There were 3 grants. Does that guarantee them?
No, they still have to be high-quality applicants
Okay.
and be recommended by you all to the state board for approval. So there is no guarantee that we give out all of the allocated subgrants. The only other thing I'll mention is we're continuing to try and build out our team. We've made an offer for the program coordinator position to Dr. Barbara O'Neill, who is a former professor of school administration in the graduate school at North Carolina A&T University, and also a former project director for the U.S. Department of Ed's Educator Teacher Quality Enhancement Partnership Grant. So has a lot of federal grant monitoring experience, works as a federal grant reviewer still currently, and has a lot of adult education and leadership development experience as well.
So we will look at these when?
So our goal is to have the recommendations to you for the May meeting. We'll do the reviews in April and have the recommendations to you in May. And for that, you'll receive a recommendation report and a write-up of each applicant,
I
as
love
well
what you
as
sent us before. That was
as
great.
well as the application materials that are submitted in Epicenter.
All right, any other questions? All right. Are you feeling good about the applicants so far?
Yes, I mean, we haven't gotten any application materials to see sort of what their plans will
Or
be
the
or what
letters
their
of intent,
enrollment targets
the
are,
letters of-
but from the letters of intent, I feel like it's a fairly healthy group of applicants.
Okay, good. This is exciting.
Yep. Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
In a State Board of Ed member, Jill Kamnitz, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's one of the new board members, and she's serves on the EICS committee. Is going to be here tomorrow just to introduce herself and observe CSAB. So when she does get here, I'll introduce her to you.
Did you bring up the discussion at the state board also that I think Olivia Oxidine brought up about getting a working group together to talk about a strategy session for charter schools? I think it's important that some of the CSEB leadership may be invited to that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Joe. At the meeting last week, the State Board of Ed did ask that in their next information session process or strategic planning that we do a session on charter schools as far as policies and operations of the office and that sort of thing. So we will want to include some members on this, the CSAB, to help prepare and present.
Observing both for the first time in a while, I think it's important that the state board gets to know this board better and has more interaction and has more faith in the recommendations they bring forward. Just to get to know kind of thing. And I think once they see and hear the work that this board's doing, they'll be much more confident in making their recommendations or upholding the recommendations that we bring to them.
Yep. Do we have any sense of when that's going to be, or what the
It's
format's
going to be
gonna
the end of April and the 1st of May, I think it is.
And that's like a retreat?
Well, it's
not really.
They have just an extra day of a board meeting, and they spend one day called an information session or strategic planning, and it's going to be here. It's not going to be off-site.
Okay.
Usually they have them at our university campus.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Deanna told me that it was going to be here.
Because it was mentioned the Charter School Teacher of the Year there, which is great.
No, I think we
Okay.
But I think it's important, you know, he's not the one making the recommendations on policy and applications and whatnot to the board. So I think it's really important that, you know, I'm certainly plan on being there. I'm going to make it a priority.
Yeah, as our office goes through the process of planning for it,
hopefully as many of
we'll
us
definitely want you to be involved, absolutely.
Okay. All right. I guess we should take a break.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can we move up closed session or not?
Nope. Because that's kind of relevant to the Paul R. Brown discussion. Relevant to the Paul R. Brown presentation.
Thank you.
Is Ignite Board of Directors here? If they're ready to go, we can have them.
Some of them are downstairs, but I think they're coming up soon.
All right. So 5-minute break. Back in here in 5 minutes.
Got here just in time for the break.
For the break. Oh.
Gosh.
Isn't that how it works when you work for the state government?
When you're a
That's what
bureaucrat?
happens, exactly right.
Okay,
Yep,
Joe,
did it.
have you seen the applications?
Friends, I think those mics are still on.
That's how I'm feeling. You can see them.
Cane or something.
Are they posted?
I'm gonna go ask Jay. Jay.
Yeah.
Those lights are still on.
Mr. Chair, can I,
Yes.
advice of speaking with council too, I need to recuse myself from this.
Yes. And just
You recuse yourself from this one?
on recusals, this is not required, but I learned at the ethics training that, you also have the option and
Oh, I thought
consider
you had to
best
say
practice to even leave the room.
Oh, really?
Leave
They
the
also
room
said you-
entirely.
But it also says you have to state why you're recusing, which we don't
Yeah.
generally do.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You don't have to.
You don't have to leave the room, but it's up to you.
State why? I mean, I can, I don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I
Why are we
mean,
asking
we assume you have
folks
a
to leave the
conflict. I
room?
mean, we all know what your conflict. I think.
Well, Ignite Pitt was a charter that was approved several years ago.
Yeah.
My consulting company was the organization that wrote the application.
Yeah, I remember that.
Put the board together.
Okay.
I've personally not had any financial arrangements with them, but nevertheless, my business partner did.
That was your baby?
The application would list Ignite Learning Partners as an organization that helped them with the application, and I was one half of that group.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. You can stay here. I mean, hey, that's totally personal. All right, we're ready to go.
All right, fantastic. Well, good afternoon to everyone. First, I want to thank you for being a little flexible with the schedule. We know we were originally scheduled for tomorrow, but we are having a comprehensive needs assessment visit for the next 2 days, so very grateful for y'all letting us come today. Just quick introductions. I'll let them introduce themselves, but several of our board members are here. One is en route. We were originally scheduled for 3. We told him get here early at 2, and he is on the way. I can tell you that. So,
Melissa Larson, Chair. Tiffany Vaughn. Meredith Andrews.
so the purpose of our visit today, we wanted to follow up on our November visit. We decided to use that November visit and make those our talking points in this presentation. So these were areas that were pointed out to us in November. So we want to talk a little bit about academic performance and especially growth, because that was mentioned heavily in the discussion. Our enrollment and marketing and our numbers currently, and what we anticipate next year looking like. Obviously, governance. At our November meeting, our board members were not available to attend. You see that they are here now. And then our finances, our original budget was projecting a shortfall of around $16,000 at that time, and some of the adjustments that we made there. Academic improvement efforts. Well, obviously, schools can often find themselves with very rich curriculums, but teachers are not always equipped or ready to implement those. And so we made that a high priority, professional development, since we've been with you. Actually made some calendar adjustments. And because we use iReady in reading and math, in reading as a supplement, but in math as our primary, we made sure that we had the iReady trainers coming in and we follow up with them. We did elect to continue with DIBELS and TRC, that M-class testing in K-3. We're data hungry, and we want to make sure that we have that data so that we can continue to track our students and find where we need to help them. We're also implementing corrective reading. One thing our data told us was that many of our students were 2 or grade levels behind in reading, and so we searched for a curriculum that was going to help us move them along, and so that was implemented in January after diagnostics were given. We also made some, I guess you call it, schedule adjustments. We put in a built-in remediation period, and the one thing that's important to us about that is that this is entirely data-driven as well. We worry less about what grade a student is, and we look at the skill level at which they are performing, and we make sure that we're working on skills with students. Core Knowledge Language Arts curriculum was our primary language arts curriculum that we were using. Each week now, we have a nationally certified core knowledge trainer that we have contracted with that is coming in and providing data meetings and also planning meetings, with our teachers each week. And so teachers get the opportunity to sit down with her, look at the results, and also discuss what we do next. Parent communication has come up from both sides, from our staff as well as our parents, making sure that they're in the know. So we use Class Dojo and daily take-home folders K-5. In grades 6 through 8, we use Remind and also weekly behavior charts. Teachers talked about conduct as well. So we made sure we went back into our PBIS matrix, made sure all students and staff understood all the expectations. We spent some time in December talking about classroom management opportunities, and what we are seeing is an increase in the quiet taking place throughout the day so that we can really focus on the work that needs to be done. This chart that we have for you here, want to make sure I preface what we are looking at specifically. We talked a lot in November about growth, and so what we wanted to demonstrate here is on each of the assessments. You see the DIBELS and TRC, you see we have iReady Reading and iReady Math that we use as interval assessments, and we also participate in the North Carolina check-ins in reading and math. For each grade level, K through 8, what you are looking at is the percentage of students whose scores increased from the beginning of the year assessment to the middle of the year. We are not trying to paint a picture that this is proficiency level. What we're saying, though, is that we are moving students in the right direction in many areas. So this is truly the percentage of students in those grade levels on those assessments with a higher score, a higher level, whatever measure is being used on that instrument, and shows you the percentage working forward. Yes, sir.
How are you measuring growth on the NC check-in?
We look simply at their score, sir. We know that they don't talk specifically because they address different skills, but maybe on the first one, they got 24% correct. On the next one, they got 40% correct. So we're looking there at percent of correct. For iReady, we're looking at the scale score that is given. And then on TRC, we're looking at the reading level that was put out.
If I made like two, what counts as growth? Is 5%?
We're looking at moving forward.
So
Did
like
that
1
score
point?
move up? We have students in iReady that have made 100% of their expected growth and are working on their stretch growth. We have a lot of students that are really starting to take the assessments a little more seriously as we explain to them exactly what we're using them for. Sometimes those remediation groups help, not gonna lie. You know, you've got a 5th or 6th grader that's in there with some 4th graders based on the data that came out. They're wondering why. Well, these are the skills that it's telling us you need to work on. Well, they had an epiphany. They had a light bulb moment where I could have done better on this if I'd tried, and they worked a lot harder on that mid-year assessment than they did on that beginning of year assessment.
So it's just like whatever it is.
Yes, sir.
Any type of
Moving in the right direction. Absolutely.
Okay.
Enrollment and marketing. We talked before about what ADM has looked like over the course of the past few years. Started in 16-17 with 171 students, about 120 came back. That second year, 251 students, only about 110 returned. Low percentage. This year, where we're sitting, we're around 193 students off of a ADM of 208, and currently 85% of students are saying that they are planning to return next year. We also have as of this morning, we also have 48 new applicants for the 1920 school year.
How much growth are you looking for 1920?
Well, we would like to, one thing that we noticed and one thing we're thinking about, we're looking at kind of front loading with new students. We'd like to have multiple classes in K2 and then that one class still 3 through 8. That way we can work students through. Even that data chart that we were looking at, we're seeing big growth movement in K2, and we feel like that program is really working. You've got them younger. Over the course of the past couple years, and when you see the returning student percentages, we don't have a whole lot of data on those students that have been in our program for multiple years over time. And so we believe by front-loading enrollment, we can track that a little bit better. Other enrollment and marketing efforts, well, that's where we that's where we just talked about. I got a little ahead of myself. We are focusing enrollment growth at the K2 level. We've been out in the community at local daycares. We're in a sort of industrial area of Greenville with multiple factories in that literally within a 1 mile radius of our school. And so we've reached out to them to let them know about the opportunity that they have right there in their backyard, and really looking for ways to increase our opportunities with East Carolina University. We're given weekly tours and monthly family nights. Not only are those family nights aimed at our current families, but we're also trying to pull in prospective families as well. We've got a little theme going with everyone get one. If all of our current families reached out to bring us new families, we could see good growth at Ignite. And then we also made just some cosmetic changes, just so you can see. This was a sign kind of after the storm, this, that, and the other. We'd go out there, we'd pop it back up, we'd stick a stick down there trying to hold it. Come back after the weekend, the sign's falling over again. You got to pull out, try to push the sign back up. We're not using the very front part of this facility yet, but we have increased our visibility from the road with a little brick sign out front where you see in the middle, and then along the facade, just letting people know that there is a school there, and it's one that they definitely want to check out. Our governance improvements, as that was mentioned in November. Since that November meeting, and we had long discussions about the fact that we didn't have attendance here, board attendance at meetings has been close to perfect. Everybody is very engaged in what is going on. We added 2 new board members in December. Our goal is to reach 7, and we've talked to a couple of candidates already about joining our board. Governance training is scheduled for April, and we have a specific school improvement committee arm of the board that meets each Friday afternoon to just continue to talk about the efforts we're making moving forward. In the realm of finance, as we went back to the drawing board, looked at personnel, looked at supplies, looked at set costs versus other costs, our budget is now currently showing a surplus of greater than $30,000. We also recently realized in the past few weeks, or were made aware, that we've qualified for $135,000 in the Comprehensive Support and Improvement Funds. That application is due March 22nd. And so we're looking at ways that we can allocate those dollars most effectively. The other thing that we're doing, we worked with an accounting group that was very good to us, is very good to us, very responsive and helps us, but we didn't always have that real-time data as far as where we are with our budget. And so in working with Prestige, we've been able to get our finance committee arm of the board up and running, and we have a site where we can go and see our day-to-day financial health of the school. Just some other odds and ends. We noticed that we are a small staff and we all wear many hats. One thing we noticed is that sometimes we were stepping on toes or duplicating work, and so we made it a point to sit down and talk about whose responsibilities are what, just to make sure that all of those duties and expectations are very clear. Power School data was very random. We had hired a person early in the year, sent them for training, but then that person, it was a little too much for them, and so we struggled teaching ourselves on YouTube and talking to other folks that we knew. And so to make sure that that doesn't become an area where we find ourselves non-compliant, we're working with Acadia North Star for the Power School arm of assistance. And I talked earlier about the school-wide discipline plan and the things that we're doing there at Ignite. We are very happy to entertain any of your questions, or I'm happy to elaborate on any other items that you'd like to discuss.
Go ahead.
I appreciate that you really and truly took all the feedback we gave you and addressed everything, and with,
rough day.
With a plan, which is a good thing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so I really hope that it leads to some academic improvement for you, because you've obviously put some work into it.
We do as well, ma'am, and we're very excited about the next couple days. You know, with the 4 members from DPI coming in for this comprehensive needs assessment, we're adopting it in the spirit in which it's being offered. You know, you throw open the doors, you let folks come in and just give you some feedback, because sometimes it's hard to see what's right under your nose. Things that become habits and things like that. When folks can come in with ideas that help better you, those are the ones that you want to embrace. We're very thankful to the Office of Charter Schools. It wasn't long after that meeting in November that Ms. Maccaro made a visit, offered us some very good feedback there, and of course we're in our charter renewal visits as well. And so that feedback has been helpful in helping us move in the right direction.
All right. Great. Do y'all have any other questions?
I'm not supposed to.
What are, can we hear maybe from some of the staff that are here? I'm not sure if did we get all your names and
We've got a
titles?
few board members. Ms.
Or
Clayton's
board
on
members?
staff,
Okay, Ms. Williams on
with
staff,
finance,
board
and
members?
3 of our board members. Yes, sir.
Okay, so, could I have another, potential, and you're obviously the director of the school and the principal.
Yes, sir.
Could we have maybe a board member come and share, maybe have they
Chair
seen
is
any
here.
difference?
Chair is
Or
here.
board chair, maybe share a little bit, what differences, what changes you've seen?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having us here today. I really do appreciate it. And as you said, you guys are a very nice-looking group, so we are glad to make the trip from Pitt County. Definitely have seen a lot of difference. As a board, as a chair, I've been involved with the board since the very beginning. And to see the difference, especially data, speaking about that, I think that the school's using their systems much better, and then they're able to present the data to us. And I think that the strategies that we've developed at Ignite, based on the performance of the students and the teachers and the programming, huge difference there. A lot of times when the board members would come into the school in the very beginning, it was very noisy. Like Mr. McCarthy said, quiet is something that we have now, and I think that's because we put in a lot of measures having to do with behavior management in the classroom and helping give the teachers the tools that they need so that we can focus on education. So yeah, seeing it physically, how the school's operating, much more cohesive, more communication between the staff and the teachers and the board and the parents too, and then of course a much more data-driven approach.
Good. Well, it looks like you guys are, on your way to making some of the changes that needed to be made, and excited to see some growth in this this spring.
We can't wait.
Good stuff.
What are your enrollment look like for next year? Have you had a lottery? Have you?
We did not need a lottery, just based on what we anticipated coming in. Like I said, we'd like to see the majority of our growth in K2. So to add approximately 4 classes there in that K2 program. So we're looking to be in that kind of 275 to 300 range.
You're at 177 now?
193. Well, 177 have indicated, based on percentage right now, that they want to return.
So 177 out of the 270 next year
Are already there. I mean, we're looking at another year where we're bringing in a lot of new faces. I mean, yeah, we understand that, and that's been our history. We hope to an 85% return rate will be much more successful than anything that we've experienced in the first 2 years.
Have you sent out letter of intents?
Yes, that's where we got the 85%. Based on the number, we're still chasing a handful, but based on what we've gotten, we're looking at about 85% back.
So if the EOGs were tomorrow, and believe me, you're looking at one person who hates to put all the eggs in one basket, but we're looking at 2 Fs in 2 years and not net growth. So we got to make a decision next year on renewal or extension.
Yes, sir.
Based pretty much on what happens in 18-19.
Yes, sir.
What do you see right now? If the EOGs are tomorrow, would you exceed growth? Would you meet growth? What's your expectations given your team?
My expectation right now is in meeting growth, an increase in proficiency from where we've been. It's been significantly low. I mean, you walk, crawl, run. So everyone is well aware of the importance of moving up in those 2 areas. So growth has been our mantra. Everything we do, we talk about growth and monitoring where a student is. The philosophy when we talk to parents is we want to find you where you are to help you get to where you need to be, with the understanding that that doesn't happen overnight. But when you bring in programs like corrective reading that have the capacity to help you exceed a year's worth of growth, we started a little late in the year, right? But students that stay with us and we continue that plan, we know that we can continue to move them in the right direction.
Do you, well, I mean, I guess, how many kids in your tested grades this year?
Kids in our testing grades, great question. Hun- 120, 115.
How many K2s do you have?
That's what I'm counting right now in my head.
Give him a second, Chad. He's adding. Wasn't a math major.
60, 71 maybe? About 71, yeah. So about 120 tested. 120, 125 tested.
Okay. That's it.
That's our bingo bammo right there. Yes, sir.
Tough question. Out of the 120 that are testing, how many are return students? They're with you at least.
Yeah.
more than a year?
The year before this year, I'd say that number's probably half. Yeah, I'd say that number's probably half. So we're dealing with some new faces. I mean, that's been who we are, and the percentage was lower. I mean, so to have it half when you only had about 43% come back total, we know what we're up against, but we're learning them quick. And the diagnostic placement assessment helped us tremendously. We started off going into data. Like I said, we targeted students that on iReady identified as 2 or more grade levels behind in reading. We did that first. We went ahead and did all the 4th grade, all the 5th grade, to see who might have qualified before we even had the middle of year data. So we're working with multiple students. So they're getting multiple opportunities to increase their reading throughout the day.
Your 5th grade reading number on there looked like the most problematic one. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, I mean, and it's unfortunate, and sometimes that it happens. We have had personnel changes there. They're a spirited young group, and not everybody is ready for spirited. And so we have somebody in there now that is as spirited or more than them. And so it's working very well so far.
How many of your board members have children in the school?
Amy, Alan does not. They're not at our school. Yours are older.
Oh, mine are older. Oh, in our school?
Yeah, yes.
One of the board members have a child at school.
All right. Keep working that plan.
That's the goal. Appreciate the time. And again, thanks for helping us, because I don't know how it would have been in 2 places at once. If we
Great.
had
No,
to
we
keep
appreciate it.
warm, so.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming out.
Good luck.
Is Paul R. Brown not here?
I believe they have some people here, but there's some others that are stuck in traffic.
Traffic? Raleigh? Come on.
At this time of day, it's not going on
There's
that.
no traffic.
No, right, you live here now. Right, Judd, there can be traffic whenever time.
I think I live here. I don't know. Just bouncing back and forth. I feel like a yo-yo.
You go back and forth?
I mean, remember.
You gonna sell the house?
Right in the middle of the street. That's crazy. I was like, which application? It's been on the market.
Middle of nowhere.
Who wants to move there? Where did Gil go? First thing he told
Great person.
Right person. I mean, like 2 seconds. It's right now the equestrian center.
Perfect.
I mean, you can sell.
I'm hoping to sell my house in 2 days.
Right there hanging out in the corner.
So what's the,
Like
I
literally.
love to read these billboards, like these real estate agents want to buy your house, guarantees will buy your house. I'm like,
Yeah, right. How many acres do you? Why are they up for renewal?
Mike, so just.
Somebody will buy it. It's just gonna take a while.
We're still waiting.
Near the equestrian center.
But this is their
Must have been before you started.
The one.
There were two. There are two.
We should be seeing that.
Seen them again? We did too, yeah. Good.
Should be.
But there's something brown too, aren't they? Yeah. All boys school. What is it? When I saw that. So here we go. So here we go. That's the subject.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready?
So, I believe that they tried to submit some things today, so, because the standard protocol is I will not, pass things out during the meeting, I have posted them on eBoard. So they can see them on eBoard, we just can't pass them out for public records requirements. Yeah, so they are on eBoard for you guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. So we're going to hear a presentation from you all, so we're ready to go.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Purdy. I am the board president for the Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy. Thank you all in advance for giving us the opportunity to talk to you all about some of the successes we've had at the Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy, as well as our way ahead. Just a little bit about me, because I was a different face here. I'm recently elected as the board president. You do have a copy probably of my resume. Just a little bit about me. I was retired military after 22 years in the United States Army, retired as a command sergeant major. I earned a doctorate of education, also an education, EDS education specialist degree. My emphasis on my doctorate is leadership. I also have 10 years in face-to-face classroom teaching at a college level, 6 years online teaching, and I also teach in the public schools. That's a little bit about me, and the reason why I'm a board member is because I'm really excited about helping students, whether it's adult learners or either younger students. I want to see them learn. On my way up here, I happened to stop at McDonald's, just a very short story. And there were 3 students that were student age. They looked maybe high school age. They were sitting at McDonald's, and I saw some of them taking selfies, and they were just having a good time. On my way out, I was getting my drink, and then there's a lady, and I think her name was Michelle, taller lady, and she says, "Hey, what are you all doing here?" And they start explaining. She said, "Well, you've been here all day," pretty much, that they were just sitting there having a good time. And then they explain, well, today is our, I guess it's their week out of school for spring break. And I say that to share because I think it takes a community. As a board member, I have the opportunity to impact the community. I have an impact to make our students better students, and then, in turn, our community is a better place as well. I talked about positives just a second ago. We have, since the last time we left, we have hired some external consultants because we know that we had some shortcomings, but we are adamantly trying to fix those shortcomings that we have. When we were here the last time, you all also provided us some information. You all told us that it would be a good idea for us to pursue the alternative learning school program, and because of that, we did a lot of research. We looked at the literature that was out there, and we found that, yes,
Mr. Purdy, one question. Were you newly elected since Paul R. Brown had just been back here? Has been back?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when were you elected exactly?
It's been about 30 days almost.
Okay, so you're the brand new board chair.
I am the brand new board chair. Now, I have been a board member for at least a year, though.
Okay, you were on the board.
I was on the board, yes.
Okay, because you were not here, I don't think, at the last.
I was.
You were,
here.
okay.
Yeah, I was sitting in one of these scared seats here.
Okay,
But
got
yes,
it.
sir, I was here. Okay. And yes, sir, we were on the receiving end, and And yes, sir, I was here.
Okay, just want to clarify that. Thank you. Keep going.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Okay, the last time we were here, you all told us that we should pursue that alternative school. And we did do research, the literature. And one of the things that it did say is that we needed to have about 75% of at-risk students, and we probably meet that. However, there were several other criteria that we did not feel that we met. And Colonel Lloyd will talk about that. Because of those other criteria that we did not meet, we did not feel that that was going to be a route that we could pursue unless you all have additional guidance for us. And because of that, like I said, we talked about the external consultants. We have really been working hard to make some changes, and we are making sure that everybody is accountable.
Who are your external consultants?
Colonel Lloyd.
That would be I'm sorry. That would be Dr. Miller with Leaders Building Leaders and Dr. Bradshaw.
Okay, thank you.
And they've provided a great deal of information and help to us. And I think that they will really impact our success there at Paul R. Brown Leadership Academy. Now, one of the things that we have talked about, and it's during all of those board meetings, is whenever I go and sit in those classes, it's about accountability. We're making sure that our teachers are doing what they're supposed to. We're making sure our staff members, as well as the headmaster and the commandant, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They know what right looks like, and it's my job to ensure that they are doing what they're supposed to do. And like I said, I don't mind asking them those hard questions. And we feel that if we are accountable for everything, we'll talk about our implementation program and the different things that we've done. But if you all are willing, what we have, our request today is, because we do not meet those requirements, we don't feel that we do, we are asking that you allow us for the next 3 years to work with our students and meet the requirements instead of being on the continually low performing list. And I tell you that we really feel that that is something is a good option, and it's something that we can do. Unless you have any questions, I'll be followed by Colonel Lloyd.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we also looked into the viability of the alternative school model, and I certainly read it, and I think you're correct in that you don't qualify.
Yes, sir.
As you cited, or someone cited in the documents, you do have students that are quote unquote at risk, but in the juvenile justice system or long-term suspended, 75% of your student population doesn't meet that criteria.
Yes, sir.
As pertains to the continually low performing, that's not something that we can control. We don't decide who's on the low performing list. That's simply a function of this state report card grades.
Yes, sir.
And your growth data. So if you were to exceed growth for the next 3 years, you would no longer be on the continually low performing list, regardless of even if you were an F school and you were exceeding growth. So that's simply based on that accountability data.
Yes, sir.
Do we want to hear from the commandant first before talk to Mr. Purdy? You guys have a preference? I'm happy to hear from the commandant. And also, I just want to make sure that we're clear on structure, because last time there was this gentleman right here. Tell me your name again.
Carl Lloyd, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Lloyd presented, but you're the assistant principal.
I'm the commandant, sir.
Commandant, so you're the over the students primarily.
I'm the disciplinarian for the school. Sir.
Disciplinarian,
and then the operations of the school.
Okay, so you're discipline and operations, Mr. Lloyd, and then what about? Who's the kind of head of the teachers? And
that would be Miss Laura Ray.
Okay, now is Miss Ray new in that position? No. Okay, is there someone else in the leadership structure that is a paid staff member?
That would be Mr. McCoy, the headmaster.
Okay.
And he's on the way up now, sir.
Okay, he's on the way up. Okay.
Who's the head?
Mr. McCoy. Okay, great. Okay, so I guess if we could hear, do you all have something planned here that you want to go through?
Yes, Colonel Lloyd has.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for having us here today. My name is Carl Lloyd, and I'm the Commandant of Cadets. And for those of you that don't know, it was my idea to start this school. I come from 20 years of private education, so the rules of engagement are a little different as opposed to public schools. But the reason why I started the school was I saw an opportunity for young men and women whose parents were financially well off to do things to alter the trajectory of their lives, to get them back on the right track. And so I always thought that if we could do that in public education, not put a label on them, not send them off, that it would be to the benefit of not just that community, but the entire country. So that was the whole idea of the military school model. So I'm gonna, hopefully I won't mess this up with the slides. As Dr. Purdy said, we did pursue the alternative model, and we just did not qualify. Because 75% of our students are at risk, but they don't meet the 75% cutoff for the other 3 requirements. We have children that are in therapeutic settings and children that are receiving at-home therapy, but not 75% of the school. We also do not have 75% of our kids that have been dismissed from other traditional schools. We will take a chance on an at-risk student that has been dismissed. If that student comes in and says, hey, I know I screwed it up in my old school, but all I want is a chance. For instance, one of our cadets thought it would be cool as an 8th grader to take his grandfather's starter pistol to school, and he received a 365. We found out about him, we went and found him, and that young man now is a graduate and is serving in the United States Army. So we do take a chance on them, but again, 75% of our students do not meet that requirement. And then also the 75% we don't meet on the high school dropout. Now we will, again, find kids that have dropped out, and if they're serious about coming to summer school, working hard, we will give them a chance to graduate. But we do not have 75% of our students as dropouts. In a nutshell, we're an alternative to an alternative school. Once we realized that we did not meet the criteria to be an alternative school, we didn't pack it in. We said, okay, we've got to figure out what we're doing wrong, and we're going to fix this. And so, for lack of a better word, the school basically conducted an autopsy on itself and said, what are we doing wrong? What can we be doing better? And so one of the things that we did do was we did hire outside consultants, because sometimes it benefits you to have someone that's not emotionally invested as you are to look at you and say, hey, that's neat, but you really are messing this up right here. So what we did was we hired the outside consultants, and what we did was they came up with a plan for us based on some of the on successes that they had found at other schools and their own personal successes. And so what we did was we incorporated daily instructional strategies to improve student academics. Observations were increased and feedback to teachers at least twice a month. There are daily walkthroughs now of each classroom. We've implemented an interim assessment process every 2 weeks. We have implemented teacher data analysis and spiral review every other Friday. Teachers now submit weekly lesson plans electronically, and they're reviewed and feedback is given. Dr. Purdy mentioned to you that Dr. Purdy comes out, and that's how he knows if a teacher is on task, because he will sit through the class and then he will ask Miss Ray, what was Mrs. Cooper supposed to be teaching today? And from there, that is one of our checks and balances to make sure that we're on task. There is a daily remediation class focused on foundational skills and personalized lesson planning. Because in our 6th grade, less than 5% of our students enter in 6th grade proficient. And so what we did was we said, okay, we can't stop and meet the state standard during the regular math class, so we'll create another math class. And we'll go back to what they missed starting in 3rd and 4th grade and try to build them up. And what we have found out is that the remediation teacher and the math teacher that is their teacher for 6th grade math, 7th grade math, they're co-collaborating, okay? He's having problems with this. Can you go back and touch on this? And so we have seen an increase in student productivity through that. Teachers are, as I said, are organically collaborating. Adult and student accountability has increased. Our cadets, and I'm just gonna go on and say, and I know you probably hear it all the time, they love going to school at Paul R. Brown. And so what they've done is they've buckled down and they said, we're gonna pass the test. We're going to do what we need to keep our school open, because I'm just being honest, there are about 5% of them that if I came home and said the school is closing, they would celebrate. But 95% of them would be devastated. So that 95% has kicked it into overdrive. One of the things that we've done is we've increased the instruction from 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Another thing we did was for the high school course, we eliminated one of the courses to give more instruction time in the core courses, especially the accountability courses. We have added peer tutoring, and our peer tutors come from our kids that have made a 4 or 5 on the EOG, EOC, and are enrolled at the community college in the dual enrollment program.
What's your enrollment right now?
Ms. Ray says it's 153, but she doesn't know that we had 2 cadets enroll on Saturday. So it is actually 155. And I know everybody's like Saturday. They were 2 of our good kids that we lost because of the storm. The parents got their stuff, finances right, and could afford to move back to Bladen County. So even though we're on break today, they'll be back. So we're actually at 155 right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Partnering with the community, we received an Ellis grant, and we're using that money to pay for the extra remediation. So a cadet goes to his regular math and language arts class, and then later on in the day, he goes to a class with a tutor. Those classes have been broken down so that they can get more one-on-one, and that's also when the college students come in and help them out. I'm sorry, our BCC college students come in and help out. One of the things that grant also allows us to do is provide dinner for them and transportation home. So they're staying until 6 o'clock. That's a pretty long day. So they eat there, and then we take them home on the bus. One of our successes, our students have competed in the Bladen County Soil and Water Conservation Program contest, and they won 1st and 2nd place in both categories they competed in, and now they're on the way. The 1st place winners on the way to District 7. Our cadets are kind of proud of that because they've now won the last 2 years in a row. As I told you before, we had to take a long, hard look at ourselves, and so that means that we as the administration, we realized it wasn't just the kids that needed to improve, we needed to improve. So our teachers have gone through the Teach Like a Champion model. They've focused on check for understanding and setting high expectations. One of our consultants, Dr. Bradshaw, has given instruction on creating rigor in the classroom. Dr. Swenson and Dr. Miller, they have come in and taught our teachers how to do backward design lesson planning. And then they've also going to do instruction on higher order thinking skills. And those posters have been added to each classroom at the suggestion of the Officer Charter Schools. One of the other things we've done is Ms. Ray and I, as the academic dean and the commandant, we've attended principal training. One of the other things we've done is we've conducted a 360 assessment for school leader improvement. We have participation in the School Leadership Academy each week, and we participate in weekly coaching sessions given by Leaders Building Leaders. School leader walkthrough training is being conducted at this time. And there's also homework for us. Ms. Ray is currently engrossed and driven by data, and I'm assigned Turn the Ship Around. We're attending EVOS training, and also we will be attending the low performing training camp. With the exception of 3 teachers, all of our teachers are signed up to attend that training. Evidences of improvement. Teacher lesson plans have been submitted and received on a weekly basis. Teacher lessons are more focused on students' current level. And these are all, everything that I've told you on the academic side, these are things that we have never done before, things that we are now implementing. And we're being told that if you do this, you're going to see improvement. And so we have thrown out the way we've done things, and we've tried to change the culture. Student participation, students are taking the assessments more serious because they now know. And as the architects will tell you, in a traditional school, if they fail, no big deal. But now they know, as being a charter school, that their school can be closed. So they're buckling down and fighting hard to do better on the test. Teachers are rallying around the goals, and they're collaborating more, as I mentioned, with the tutorial instructor and with the primary instructor. And teachers we're celebrating the success of teachers. We have thanks a lot ceremonies where the teachers that are doing a good job and are going above and beyond are being rewarded in front of their peers.
Those are my favorite Girl Scout cookies, by the way.
Those are good.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, sir, I don't need any of those cookies, so I stay out of that ceremony.
Is that the shortbread with chocolate on the bottom?
Compliance. All performance framework documents have been submitted on time. Between Dr. Miller and Dr. Bradshaw, we're not missing any deadlines. Monthly audits are being conducted to improve policy and systems. One of the things you can do is you can say, okay, it's working, and let it go. But that's why we're having the consultants come in frequently, because we may get complacent, and that's the last thing that we need. We understand we've got to hit a home run with this thing now. We've increased our current teacher licensure to over 50%. As I mentioned before, as Dr. Purdy mentioned, he's the new board chair, as he has a doctorate in educational leadership, and he is excited about the direction he's going to take the board in. One of the biggest things, and I know that it does not translate to the test, is our involvement in the community. When the school was first opened, we were painted as the school for juvenile delinquents by the local schools. That's where the bad kids are gonna go. And what happened is our kids have basically broken that stereotype. Our kids they're good kids, and they do great things in the community. One of the things that they do is because they do so much community service with the Lions, the Shriners, the Optimist Club, and then even other organizations or even individuals. For instance, we had a lady whose house during the storm got washed out. She had to move all of her stuff out, and she's 78 years old. Our kids went down there and loaded her stuff up into the Connex, and then when the work was done, loaded it back up, and when she tried to pay them, they wouldn't accept one dime from her. Those are the things that our kids do. So we have a great relationship with the community, and the community is behind the school. They want to see us succeed. Because we are so intertwined into what goes on in the community, since the last time we were here in November, the Bladen County Board of Education and the Bladen County Commissioners voted to turn complete control of the building and the property over to us now. So we no longer have to pay rent for the facility.
Wow. How much were you paying before?
We were paying $1,500 a month, but it's not bad, but I at least want you to fix things when they're broken. If I'm paying you, why am I cutting my own grass? If I'm paying you, why do I have to pay the plumber? And so now with it being in our control, hey, we're going to fix this, we're going to fix that. So that definitely was a plus, because then it does not hang over our head that they own the building. Mm-hmm. Now, I won't tell you that everyone on the school board wanted it to happen, but there were some great members of that school board that see the benefit of our school. And one of the things about our school is we may get one of their kids for a year or 2 years, and we help them turn it around. They decide to go back. We're okay with that. You know, you did great. When I see you on the street, hey, how you doing? But some of those school board members saw the benefit of it, because at the same time, they see their kids that are floundering in their environment come over to our school, and they blossom, and they become, so to speak, rock stars. So those board members on the school board were definitely on our side, and the county commissioners as well. It was our kids out during the storm helping with cleanup, helping do things to get the town back up and running. because of the relationship with the community. Our gym had been shuttered for 30 years. Campbell Oil Company and Bladen We Care donated the money to put LED lighting in the gym. So we didn't have to open the door to depend on them being able to see. We've done a complete renovation of the gym. There's still a little work to be done, but without their help, it wouldn't have happened. We've also been able, with Lowe's Home Improvement, they've donated shrubbery, flowers to improve the curb appeal of the campus and to improve the curb appeal of the gym.
I'm sorry to ask a very technical question, but did they lease the building facility, or they actually gave you title and ownership?
Title and ownership. Yes, sir. As long as the school remains a charter, is from what I'm being told. And like I said, that vote was begrudgingly, but it went through.
Bless you. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Funds have been invested to improve the kitchen because many of our kids do not get a good meal at home. And so we do breakfast and lunch, and for those kids staying for the Ellis Grant, we also provide them dinner. One of the things that we were doing was a lot of outside catering, and when you're doing outside catering, you're at the mercy of the caterer. Because the building is ours now, we were able to go in and go through, I don't know if you're familiar with Preferred Meals, but we use Preferred Meals. We were able to, the money that we were spending on leasing, we were able to put an air conditioning unit in the gymnasium, in the cafeteria, so that you're not sweating over your food. We were able to fix the walk-in cooler and the walk-in freezer. And so everything we get, we are putting back to make the school better. Since the last time we were here, the school received a 6-figure donation from someone, and the money was based, and I was told just like this, I don't want my name on a building. I don't want it to go to salaries. I want it to go to do something to improve the quality of cadet life, to make it better for the kids that are there. And so one of the things we were able to do with that money is we purchased an activity bus, because what was happening was we were having to double up kids on bus routes because of the fact we were playing sports this season. So we have a true activity bus now with air conditioning, which excites all the kids now. We also purchased 4 small mini buses because we have kids coming from Hoke, Robinson, and Cumberland County. Their bus route starts pretty early with that going 45 miles an hour in the traditional school bus. So now we have the smaller buses that can travel 55, 60 miles an hour, and it gets them they can get a little bit more sleep. One of the other things that we did with it was we are still actively pursuing the aviation program, because in 2021, the aviation industry is going to dry up, and there will not be pilots and there will not be mechanics to fill those shortfalls. And so with the money, we purchased a flight simulator for the cadets. One of the other things we did with the money is they were able to go to Washington, D.C. on Veterans Day and go to Arlington Cemetery. Those funds also are going to be helping with the trip they're going on later on this week. This past weekend, we hosted cadets from Bladen County and from Greensboro, North Carolina, and did adventure training on our facility and took a trip to the battleship. People kind of take it for granted. Me, I was a nerd growing up, so I wanted to go there every chance I got, but we have kids that are less than 30 minutes from it that have never set foot on it. And so for them, it's huge to do things like that. Some of them, other finances were used to take our kids to the ballet, to see the Dance Theater of Harlem a few weeks ago. We provided the color guard. We were requested by the mayor of the town to provide the color guard when the town of Elizabethtown, yes, we haven't always had an airport, but now we have a terminal. And so now we actually provided the color guard for that dedication ceremony. Our students this weekend will be traveling to Kansas City, Missouri, to participate in the Pershing Rifles National Drill Meet. This is a big deal for our kids because they've won the last 2. And we like to think that they moved it to Kansas City to keep us from attending.
I think all these things are really great, and it sounds like...
Sir, can I have one more slide?
Yo, yeah.
Because we're basically at the end. This picture here that I put up for you, because I know I've got to turn it back over to Dr. Purdy. if you look at that picture, those are our kids standing in the center of it. And that's at that very drill meet that they're going to this weekend. They're standing there with college kids from Ohio State, Notre Dame, Florida State, Clemson, Xavier, University of Kentucky, NC State, Hofstra. And if you look, our kids are the ones in the center of that picture. That's my favorite picture in the world, next to my wife's picture. But
it's a good save.
Yeah, I'm smart. But that's my favorite picture because everyone has heard of all those big time schools that I've just named off to you. But if you look in the center of that picture, it's kids from a little town called Elizabethtown that live in little communities like East Arcadia, Carvers Creek, Turnbull, Buckhead, Lagoon, that no one ever heard of. But in the center of that picture, those kids are on top of the world because they just went up against America's future Army and Air Force officers and beat them. Those successes are the things that set them up for success the rest of their life. It gives them an anchor. I can do anything I want to as long as I put hard work into it. I will tell you this, when I envisioned opening the school, it was to have those successes in academics as well. And I'll admit, we messed it up. Not the kids, we as the adults. We messed it up. And we're asking for you to give us the opportunity to fix it so that the next time I come up here, and I'm hoping it will not be on the naughty list, but the next time we come up here is because we've exceeded growth like you've asked us to. And I think with the strategies that we are implementing, that we will exceed growth. At this time, I'll take questions, or you can direct them to Dr. Purdy. Excuse me.
Yeah. I have a couple.
Go ahead.
How many administrators? So you're a commandant, and then Miss McCoy is?
Mr. McCoy is the headmaster.
Headmaster.
And Ms. Ray is the academic dean. Now, Mr. McCoy will be leaving at the end of the year, so we're also in pursuit of a headmaster. And based on the recommendation from the consultants, they're suggesting we get someone with a strong background in instructional leadership. And so that's the cutoff before we even look at the application. Someone that understands exactly what is expected of the school.
How many, so you're grades 6 through 12, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How many teachers?
21. There's 21 teachers, ma'am.
21?
But now all of them are full-time.
Are all of the administrative roles full-time?
Yes. Well, Mr. McCoy's is not full-time because he's a state retiree, but
okay,
he's full-time. He's not full-time, but he is.
He's not full-time in terms of payroll.
Yeah, yes, sir.
But he's there.
Yeah, I mean, because I would think 3 for the number of students that you have, 3 full-time like that, it might be easier to just have kind of a co-leader model, or something like that. But that's for in the future. I think all of this is great, and I think that what I'm seeing is some real evidence of going through the paces around the alternative school side, and then really getting some good people involved, and then putting some of the moves in play that you need to put in play in order to move the needle instructionally. So I think that at the end of the day, it's obviously this work is really, really hard, so I don't want to oversimplify it, but cutting through everything, if you all meet growth and submit stuff on time, we probably wouldn't have even had to have this and all the drama. I think in the end, this has been, depending on what the resolution is, but I'm feeling much better now than I was last time we met. It seems like you all have, it has really given you the intensity and sharpened your focus, which is important. Kind of like you were saying, the students know that what's on the line. Everyone kind of knows what's at stake now, and I think that's important. That clarity can be very focusing. I think I want to see the clarity around, quite frankly, just getting stuff in on time, because in our report from DPI on some items is just kind of getting back to the people from federal programs so that the money that you're allotted can be accessed. It's great you got a grant. That's phenomenal. I'm so excited. It sounds, and that type of money is a lot easier to manage than federal money. But we were really behind on the Title I application. Has that been completed and submitted? And
Yes, sir, it has been.
okay, because and then basically you're in this cycle right now. You need to begin the needs assessment for next year. That type of stuff. We had the CER report was late in 2017-18. It was late in 2016-17. There was no final submission of that in 2015-16. Some documents were not ready. There was kind of non-responsiveness. I think these things, if you're at a school with exceeding growth every year and you're kind of not really responsive, okay, not a big deal, tidy that up. But when things aren't good on the kind of external metrics, and then we're hearing as well from internally, we need to do these basic compliance things right.
And what we're trying to do now with that is someone is assigned to each one of those submissions now, and it's their responsibility. You have to get this in on time.
Well, and also just if someone from DPI calls, I mean, and this goes, I mean, if someone calls my school from DPI, I am calling them back as quickly as humanly possible. I mean, it's just, because I'm nervous. I'm like, why are you calling me? I don't want that phone call.
I understand, sir, and we're working on that. You have my word on that. To be honest, the other day someone called from DPI, and the line was disconnected. We don't know if it happened on our end or their end, but there was a frantic pace going around trying to figure out who it was.
But like Tina Hinson on federal programs, she's super responsive, right? I have her cell phone. I've given her my cell phone, because I was back and forth with her when I was trying to get my grant submitted. Someone needs to be actively cultivating the communication loop with whoever is your Title I person. Someone needs to be actively, whoever is the consultant assigned to the school, like someone needs to be very, very, whether it's email or, if they're not going to get you over the phone for whatever reason, email, everybody's emails on their phone. That should just be, if one of those people's emails, it should just be, you all stop and jump, because these are the things that can get you in trouble, where it becomes difficult to defend despite all the anecdotal stories, which are really compelling. I mean, I'm very compelled by everything you're saying, but then when you say, oh, well, we're not being growth, they don't submit reports on time, they haven't completed their Title I audit, which is basically money that's being allotted to them. These two things are not connecting, and someone can say, well, that doesn't really make, why are we protecting this school that's not submitting stuff on time and not meeting growth? Because that's kind of the other side of the story that gets told.
The good news, I just heard you say you have my word on it, and it's tape recorded. So I assume that we will never see a late report again from Paul R. Brown, because your word's on it, and you're a military man.
Sir, you're exactly right.
I know, you all are military folks.
That's all I needed to hear.
Right? It's
one thing
on
that
time is late, right? Isn't that how the military goes? On time is late. Being on time is being late. 5 minutes early is on time.
That's real.
On time.
I think what you're doing, as far as your this plan, I kind of like, and then to the drilling and things like that you're talking about, the picture that you've got up there. I mean, I think that's awesome, and I think what y'all have got to do is you've got to figure out a way to get the kids as excited about the work in the classroom as they are about that, because that's really important, but the work in the classroom is really important too. And that's, apart from the late submissions, getting the kids excited. Because I think if there's some way, and I know it's hard to get his kid as excited about math as that, right? Because it's the same way, if I had a choice when I was in high school, of going and lifting weights or doing extra things on the football field or doing my homework, I wanted to go do the football stuff because that was more fun to me. So trying to find a way to get that same kind of excitement going on in the classroom, and I think some of what your plan is doing will hopefully help to do that. So I mean, I just personally for me, I feel a lot better than last time when you came in, because last time I was ready to just say, yeah, we're done, you know. But after seeing this, and I think it's good that we took some time. But I think we've really got to check in on you often, and I think it'd be good to see, hopefully see some good results out of what y'all are doing.
Yes, sir. I might comment on that.
Sir, I think you got
Yeah, you have to come to the microphone, sir.
So it can be
Sorry. What we're looking at too is we've been dealing with the mindset. We're dealing with the mindset, and we are working to that end. As I spoke, I didn't speak earlier, but anyway, the colonel, we used to send 25 to 30 kids to Wisconsin every year. And when those kids came back from Wisconsin, they were excited. We're in a small community, mindset is one way, and we're trying to change their mindset. They cannot see a need for education for the simple reason, parents are there, you do this, you're all right. So we're trying to change the mindset, and it's done a job changing the mindset. That's the reason we're trying to sponsor trips to, over the summer, to Greensboro, what's the name of the school they're going? Oak Ridge. They give them a chance to get out of the setting to see there's more of life than Elizabethtown. They don't think there's nothing left but, well, I won't say what they think is left. But anyway, that we're trying to change that mindset, and it's coming. We're trying to continuously take these kids every summer, a certain number of them, away from the campus, away from Elizabethtown, to see a way of life. It can exist. And that's the job, but we're working on it. Kids, the Ellis Grant, where we partner with the church in the community, they've come in, they run the services, and it's been exceptional. The kids are taking part of, they're buying into the community. They're even helping on the yard, They're working with the yards, doing things that, sir, the kids don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to do anything. Nothing. They don't know how to hold a shovel, a rake, or do anything. Because what? It's all been given to them. Not that it's important, but guess what? That's a way of life. It's a way of life. So many kids in the past have said, public schools said, I wish I'd have learned how to brake. So I wish I'd have learned more auto mechanics. Why? Because now I'm walking the streets. There's nothing left. There's nothing left but drugs, way of life. And that's what we're trying to change there. That's what we're trying. We're a small community, very small. But what? We got kids coming from all different counties, and we're trying to change that way of life, way of thinking, the thoughts, the action, and behavior. And it's a task. Because public schools, don't get me wrong, public schools are saying, if you sit over there and don't bother me, I won't bother you. I give you a certificate of graduation, and we're through with you. And those kids will come to us, and they've said to us, listen, help me get out of this paradigm that I'm, help me change my way of life, help me change my way of thinking. And it's a task, but we're working on. We're working on it.
I think if y'all get it solid and you do what you're trying to do, I mean, you can really make a generational change for your community.
I think so. And with your help and understanding, we can turn it around.
It seems like you have, again, you have, and based on what I've talked to Dr. Miller about the school, and and it seems like you have a lot of things that other people often don't have sometimes when we see schools that are really struggling and failing. And you now have a facility that's taken care of. You have a lot of community support. You have a lot of a seemingly strong school culture. And students are, a lot of times when you see failing schools, there's a lot of misbehavior, lack of discipline. People that have been there have said that's not the case, right? But the kids are not learning enough. They're not making enough academic progress. So I think you just have to drive hard on basic instructional techniques and priorities, get strong content in front of kids, give teachers feedback. And if you do that, and also kids will grow, and also you just got to have people, whoever it is, I don't know who it is, if it's the commandant or the principal, someone has got to be able to kind of respond to the outreach and the requirements from DPI on a really just 24 hours, less than 24 hours. Someone has just got to own that So like whoever is in charge needs to be saying, did you get anything from DPI this week? Okay, check your inboxes. Go back and look again. Make sure that it's not, you didn't miss anything.
I just wanted some clarification for myself, because you've got the commandant and a headmaster. Who is the one that's ultimately responsible for the DPI?
Ma'am.
Okay.
I am in there, but now, we work as a team. Understand, I don't understand the Army part as well. I'm education. However, we try to run it as a team. Or again, we try to run it as a team. I understand in education, there's no I, it's we. It takes an entire school to make it happen. I know that everybody working in their profession can make it work. Know that. So, yes, ma'am, I'm multiple response for those reports not getting in time, and that's my call. But you can rest assured that the new headmaster come in, that will be the first thing on his agenda to see that it happened, that
Yeah, whoever that is or however it's structured, this is, it's just whether it's unreturned phone calls or things like failing to post the school's report card and letter grade, following admission requirements, all this performance framework stuff, policies, grievances. Dr. Miller is kind of a savant with these types of things. He's very good. He knows all this stuff. He's someone that you can get to help you with some of these submissions. But this stuff has got to be airtight. Because this is actually, in many ways, easier than teaching a child how to read. So if we can get this right and then grow kids, we shouldn't be having to have
With
this
that being
conversation.
said, Alex, I'm pretty sure you guys are high school's on year-long courses, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had any benchmark assessments for the students? Anything to indicate that growth is happening this year?
As the slide said, we're now implementing 2-week assessments, so, and we've been out. We're on a break right now, but we're getting feedback as far as, and we're doing it through SchoolNet. So that gives us, we basically have a foundation, and every 2 weeks we do another assessment, whether it includes what was not mastered and then something else new. That's what the backward design plan was supposed to be.
But you don't use MAP, or are you using the check-ins, NC check-ins?
We do have NC check-ins, yes.
How, you've given 2
Yes.
episodes of that already?
Yes.
Did you see any improvement between?
There is a slight improvement there, yes, ma'am.
I really just want to stamp something that Alex said, that because I want to make sure you hear this. You guys have done a great job with culture. But if you don't get your academics together, it isn't going to matter worth a dime. So it's really important that you don't get so caught up in all the extra opportunities you're giving your kids, which are all important. But right now, you need to focus on what's going on in the classroom. Because you won't even have the opportunity to provide those other things if you don't fix the classroom.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any other questions for the folks from Paul R. Brown at this time? Okay, so we're gonna go into closed session in a minute here, and then we're gonna deliberate, and then we will actually discuss Paul R. Brown probably again around 3 o'clock as a board tomorrow. Not something that you need to be here for, but if you want to listen in, obviously you all can. But yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
Finance is good?
Their audit,
There's no
so
compliance
there's no
issues.
compliances in the audit. I don't think that there was a lot of money necessarily, a lot of cash reserves. So that's something. Have you all completed your Title I grant? Can someone tell me?
Sir, if I'm not mistaken, we have.
Mrs. Hanson, the lady you mentioned, we were speaking with her, yes, sir.
So you're waiting for that money to come?
Okay, so
Certification, teacher certification, I had to get it, that was one of the last issues we had.
yeah, that seems to be another issue. We got to get licensure right. You don't have anything for any issues right now? No. Finances, okay, good. Yeah, we gotta let's get that money released from Title I and get started on the needs assessment process for next year. Yeah, and just work with the Office of Charter Schools to clean up this compliance stuff, because, again, it's hard for us to defend, we can't, all these things are compelling. We can't lower the bar, though, if you're not meeting growth and you're not complying with basic requirements of all charter schools. That then becomes, the board and I think expects us to say, you know what, you were given a chance, but we're not gonna continue. If you can tidy these things up and then really focus on take the strong culture foundation that you've laid and move kids, we're excited. I think you could really make a significant impact. So we're gonna go in a closed session, then we'll discuss this again tomorrow. Like I said, you don't have to be here. We won't be any items that we'll have questions for you, but we will, we will discuss the items specifically tomorrow.
Do we have anything else we need to do after closed session? Okay, well then.
No,
then I will move that we go into closed session to discuss attorney-client privileged matters with our attorneys, and that upon leaving closed session, that we stand adjourned until tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
It's been properly moved to second. All in favor? All right.
Haven't we got to come out of closed session and announce that we're out of closed session?
I thought we had to do
You can do it just as Stephen does. That's how the state board does it.
We can close out a closed session.
So we won't come back in here and we'll just adjourn from.
Yeah, I
there'll be no
basically
additional
went into
business
closed
today.
session and said when we're done, we're adjourned.
Yeah.
So.
That'll work, that's fine. Anyone on here? We can take everything with us, so we'll be ready to walk out of there.
Yeah.
So, because it definitely turned them on.
Should I carry Heather into closed session?
Is she there?
Is it wireless?
You're here, aren't you, Heather?
I'm here.
All right, I'm gonna carry you in with us to closed session.
So fun.
I didn't know
I
that
didn't
was
have
wireless.
All right, I'm gonna try not to drop you as I go in.
I don't realize that.
That was a pain. Yeah.
I so need one of these in my office.
She looks like a flying sausage.
I'll get the trash.
Oh,
I'll take out the trash.
yeah, okay,
Isn't that what Arnold said?
yeah.
I take out the trash.
Oh, man, I'm tired.
That was interesting.
Do you know anything about this?
We're about to fall asleep with us.
Do you know anything specific? Have you been there?